It's been the most amazing month that I've ever been a part of. This is something that I think every single Matilda or every single female athlete has wanted for such a long time. And to see something so special like our World Cup, to see those numbers, to see the amount of people in the stands on home soil is incredible. I didn't even know that the Matildas existed. I literally found out about the Matildas maybe a month before I got called into the Matildas. I had no idea that there was an Australian team. I think we're still a long way to go, and we have to continue to, fight those little battles, because if we don't do it, then nothing's ever going to change. I used to cop it a lot, especially for being a gay athlete. People would tell me to read the Bible constantly. You even saw the boomers with all their jerseys on and, changing the time of their game just so they could watch the girls. I'm like, that's something special.
Welcome to Onside, the official podcast of Sport Integrity Australia. Our mission is to protect the integrity of sport and the health and welfare of those who participate in Australian sport.
Hello and welcome to Onside. I'm Tim Gavel, and today we're looking at the momentum generated by the Matildas' success at the World Cup. Joining us is former Matilda Michelle Heyman. Michelle played 61 games for the Matildas, scoring 20 goals. Michelle, it's been extraordinary to see what the Matildas have been able to achieve: record ratings, record crowds, and a genuine movement for change. It's incredible.
It's been the most amazing month that I've ever been a part of. This is something that I think every single Matilda or every single female athlete has wanted for such a long time. And to see something so special like our World Cup, to see those numbers, to see the amount of people in the stands on home soil is incredible. We've pushed for this. We've tried to sell our brand for a very long time, and it was so nice to finally see, the rest of Australia understand how hard it is for women athletes to make themselves look like a professional male athlete, by having the large crowds, the large numbers. So being able to have that on home soil, I think it's definitely hopefully going to change the way for women's sport within Australia. Because
let's face it, there are very few full-time professional footballers in women's ranks in Australia. They have to go overseas, So the hope is that we can have full-time professional sports people in Australia, in not just your sport, but also in basketball, cricket.
100%. Because I still talk to a lot of the girls in that team, and most of them would rather be playing in Australia than overseas. But right now, playing overseas is where financially you're more sound, and the better quality of sport over there at the moment, especially for football, the level is a lot higher than what it is in Australia. But if we were able to, make Australian football financially great for the players to come back, I reckon you would have a lot more Matildas knocking down the door to be back in the A-Leagues. But again, financially, it always comes back to money. And if you can make, 10 times more money to go play overseas than what you can in your own country, you've got to do it for, your career's only max 10 years long. So you have to jump at it when you can.
Because let's have a look at a couple of stats. You played in the 2015 Women's World Cup and made it through to the quarterfinals. How much did you earn for making it through to the quarterfinals as part of the Matildas?
$750 was our big paycheck that we got. So, within 8 years' time, when you look at today and what the girls went home with, definitely it's improved. But again, when you look at that compared to the male football, we're still a long way away.
Why do you think that is? Is it because males are in charge of sport, or is it because, it just hasn't been accepted properly by both the media and the sporting community?
I think definitely hasn't been accepted. I feel like the amount of money that they must have put into the marketing for this World Cup is the most that we've ever actually spent on women's sport in Australia. Because if you look at it, there was pretty much every Matilda was on a billboard somewhere. They were blasted on big buildings. They were in every single newspaper. They were always talked about on social media. So there was this big hype for, 6 to 3 months of Matildas. And as soon as day one started and we got 75,000 plus in that stadium, the marketing, what they put behind it to fill those seats was incredible. I look at when we went to the World Cup, there was nothing. No one really cared. It was a little bit of a social media post on Instagram and Facebook, and maybe, a couple of newspapers jumped on board to have a good, conversation about it. But other than that, it was nothing. Like I don't even think we were on TV. I don't think anyone took the rights. No one wanted to host it through any Australian network, which was a bit frustrating. But the sad thing is, even listening to FIFA at the moment, they talk about, not the TV rights. Like, Channel 10 didn't want to be a part of it. So many companies didn't want to be a part of this World Cup, and it kind of like slapped them in the face because it was so popular. And it's the highest ranking. So, Channel 7 done really well. But one, I think it started off with, only an X amount of games that they were showing, and then they really started to see the hype and were like, oh, okay, we'll add some more free-to-air games on. But the likes of Channel 7 and Optus Sport getting behind women's sport has definitely, changed the way it was from when it was my World Cup. So I think the more media, the more advertisement and just that marketing definitely helps. And, the likes of having Sam Kerr, her name, her brand is well known. So if we can get, I think now Mackenzie Arnold has that type of brand now. They're calling her the brick wall. So it's like her being injured for this World Cup kind of allowed everyone else to build a brand. So hopefully now everyone knows who the other Matildas are, and we can start selling it that way, because I think women are so good at selling things. We're great people. We're easy to talk to. We're very good in the market world. So it's like just hoping companies jump on board now to see if we can improve on that side of things.
Just on the number of coaches that are women too. I mean, the hope is that this generates more interest from women wanting to become coaches of women's sporting teams. Because, for instance, in Canberra, there's only one, Nicole Begg, in terms of coaching a women's team in the top tier competition in Canberra.
Yeah, and it's pretty sad because there's still no funding for coaches. Even if you look at the A-Leagues, like I don't think any of the coaches are getting paid more than $10,000 to $20,000 for a head coach job. And if you look overseas, they're on $300,000 to $500,000. I wonder what Angie's getting paid, to be a coach overseas. So you look at that, but you look at our league, there's just no support within coaching. So I look at it, I'm like, why would you want to become a coach? There's no career path for you. There's a hobby if you want to jump on the hobby train. But when you can't financially look after yourself from doing something that you love, that's when, it starts to get a little bit frustrating because, again, we just don't have funding in certain places to grow the game.
Just tell me your career when you started on the South Coast and as a young player, I think about 11 years of age. Did you have ambitions to be a Matilda back then?
No, I didn't even know that the Matildas existed. I literally found out about the Matildas maybe a month before I got called into the Matildas. I had no idea that there was an Australian team.
What, a month before you got...
Yeah. Finished my W League season and won a few awards, and the head coach, Tom Samani at the time, asked me to come into a camp. And I had to ask my teammates. I was like, who? Who's this guy? And I was like, what am I doing? And what's a camp? I didn't know what a camp was. And that's kind of how my journey started.
Had you won the Julie Dolan medal, and that's the highest honour, and yet there was no awareness that you could be a Matilda?
No, and I didn't even know who she was. And that breaks my heart because we're very good friends now. So I look at it from, I think that was maybe, what year was that, 2010?
Not long ago.
Yeah. And within, 13 years, I've managed to, I met her that day and then now we've become pretty good friends. So it's nice to, still have that connection within the women's sport. But yeah, I had no idea about the Matildas, and I'm not the only Matilda who didn't know who the Matildas were. If you were to ask a handful of them, probably none of them, maybe 50% would have been like, oh yeah, I actually supported the Matildas before making the Matildas. I wanted to be one, and it would be the younger generation. But I knew Steph Catley. She just said it in her latest article. She didn't know who the Matildas were either. And I'm like, okay. And she's, 6-7 years younger than me. So I'm like, that's a big generation gap again.
Well, you wonder, given the awareness and the hype around the Matildas now, there are going to be a whole lot of young women wanting to become Matildas in the future, and hopefully there are facilities, there are coaches, there's integrity frameworks to guide them through.
100%, we need that. And I think, that's a big problem that we don't have right now. I think most of the A-League clubs are, we still share a lot with the men's teams, and, unlucky for us, Canberra, we don't have a men's team at all. So our foundations and our facilities we're lucky we're training out of the AIS, but at the same time, it would be really cool to have our own football, home of football within Canberra, and to be able to go to our field and have like all our staff there and the team being able to just be comfortable in one spot. But for us, I think we're still a long way to go, and we have to continue to, fight those little battles, because if we don't do it, then nothing's ever going to change. But, fingers crossed with what the Matildas have done, we'll definitely bring in some more funding, because that's the biggest thing we need. We need money within the game.
They're already talking about facilities, for instance, because, most of the facilities are built for men's teams.
Yeah.
And the women having to share.
Yeah, like if you walk into the bathroom and it looks like a men's bathroom,
That's a simple thing.
That's a simple thing, and that's like we used to have to ask constantly. I'm like, can we please have bins in the bathroom? Can we please have certain things in this stadium, because there's nothing there for women. And it's quite sad when you think about it that every single stadium built within Australia was only built for men, and only 1 to 2 teams, when it could have been built for at least 4 different teams. I remember when I was playing at Central Coast Mariners, and we couldn't train or play at their stadium because it only had home and away change room. So if the men played after us, guess where we got put? In a tent out in the car park, where everyone would watch us get changed in the car park, because there was no room for women to be inside the stadium. So
in many aspects, not a lot has changed.
No.
I know that was when you were playing for the Mariners before coming back to Canberra and before you went to Adelaide. But
it's sad when you really look at it. And I hope, we just got that $200 million funding. So fingers crossed, that's going to be around all sports though, all female sports. But you hope that, some of that money goes within the facility and, to the grassroots of football, because we have to start now. I'm like, we're rolling. The iron is hot. I'm like, we've got to jump on board, and we've got to, invest in women's football.
And with more women coming through, as I mentioned a moment ago, it's important that they have the right education around integrity, ethical decision-making.
Definitely.
Play by the rules. So it's like this.
100%.
There's a lot to learn pretty quickly.
Yeah, because, looking at my junior years, and I was in a boys team. So I got, I was lucky back then. You just rocked up to, your game with your boots on and your shinnies on already, and you just go jump out of the car and you start playing. But now I think about it and I'm like, oh God, I used to always just have to change my T-shirt, either hide behind the canteen or, do something away from the rest of the boys, because there was no room for me to be in the change room.
Yeah. So can you see almost a light bulb moment now in Australian sport? People are saying, women should be treated fairly with parity. And
it's nice that people are just talking. I think that's super important, because not a lot of people understood or knew how women were treated in sport for a very long time. The standards, we definitely are second-class citizens, women athletes, and it has been for a very long time. So if we can change that and move into a more positive, looking forward direction, then the next generation of kids coming through, it's going to be a wonderful time to be joining, a team and playing team sport, because it made me who I am. And I think it's one of the best things for any human to be a part of the team, because of all the skills that you learn within it.
Is there much sexism, do you think, from male administrators, coaches, that still needs to be dealt with? We've obviously seen the fallout from the Spanish women's team.
Definitely. I've had these conversations even with our coaching staff within Canberra, and it's just having that knowledge. We even now have, the Pride Cup and Pride in Sport come out and talk to us and the coaching staff on how to just be a human and to be able to talk and respect everybody, because, back in the day that wasn't a thing. So coaches are learning to this day, especially if you're a lot older. But again, it's just all about that communication. It's just having that knowledge and being able to be present with the times. But I think there's a lot to be done within that space.
I guess it shows a fair bit of courage, though, to stand up and address that sort of thing? Because you are an older player, you're able to do it, but I would imagine that not always the case with younger players.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different generation. When I look at my players, the new one was born in 2006, and I was like, cool, that's when I finished school. So it's like the age gap is getting even bigger now because I'm getting a lot older than what I should be and still playing. But, it's being that role model and trying to, be able to be a sounding board for my coaches and for my players. I'm kind of like the girl in the middle who just likes to listen to everyone's conversation to make sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable.
Do you think that the current generation realise what you went through or what your generation went through? For instance, 2015 World Cup, $750 for making it through to the quarterfinal. Do you think that there is a realisation that there were people there that dug the well, and even before you?
Yeah. I look at it and my best mate's Caitlin Munoz, who was in the Matildas 10 years before me, and she never made $1. So I think I'm lucky that I have a great relationship with her because I saw her struggles. And then she is grateful for me because she's like, well, at least you got paid and you got to do something. You got to get a little bit of a career out of it. But that $750 remark, when I looked on social media, I've had some people be like, oh, that's so sad. And then some people like, well, that's more than what athletics gets. And that's more like everyone has to judge to something else. But it was more along the lines of $750 to what the men got that year. I think
in comparison,
like the Socceroos didn't even make it out of the group stage and all of them walked away with $300,000. And I'm like, okay, well, here we are in quarterfinals with that amount of money. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense in my eyes. But the amount of training that we do is the exact same as what the males do. But yeah, we just don't see the dollar.
One area I wanted to ask you about was obviously with the greater exposure comes greater pressure, and you mentioned their social media. Are sportswomen equipped, do you think, to cope with the sudden rise
I think
in fame and exposure, and suddenly people feel as though it's okay to have a crack at them on social media, and if they miss a goal or they don't kick a goal or they don't save a goal?
Yeah, like I think women are strong and have to be and have been for a very long time. They know how to present themselves on social media, and we know not to really read what people say to us because, I used to cop it a lot, especially for being a gay athlete. People would tell me to read the Bible constantly and I just never understood. It was a book I didn't want to be able to read. But I just believe in women because we have always had to have that second job. We've always have to, be able to juggle as many things as possible. Juggling, our own personal social media and being able to handle criticism just comes with the game. And we get criticised from our coaches more than what we get criticised by the people in the stands. So I think there's like a part of us that know we're like, we're the ones on the field. We know what we're doing. You're just jealous because you're sitting in the stands. Say whatever you need to say. But we're doing our job and we're trying our best. So it's that kind of mentality. We try not to let things get to us because if you do, then that's when the problems start to just unravel and roll everywhere.
Having known you for a while over the years, you're one of the more grounded people that I've ever known, and you're quite comfortable in talking about, your own life. Is there always that worry that, gee, I don't want to expose myself too much?
I can't not. It's weird. I like to be as honest as I can, and sometimes this gets me into trouble as well because my mum always told me to speak your mind, and if you have an opinion, just say it. So I have been doing that since I was little, so I don't think it could ever change. But, I think that's why I'm not within the Matildas. I think that's, the way that I speak sometimes it's just might, make people feel different because I am so honest. I'm not a yes man kind of girl anymore. And I was when I was quite younger, but now I'm like, the more that I can speak my own truth and be honest with who I am, that's when I feel the happiest. And when I'm the happiest, that's when I play good football and you see me smiling, running around on the field. So it works for me, and I'll always just be as honest as I can.
When you say there's been backlash at times, how do you handle that?
I just laugh because I'm just like, well, what's the point? I'm like, it's my own personal opinion. You can have your own opinion and that's fine. I'm not here to have arguments with people. It was just this is my thought and that's why I said it. And then, I just kind of let it go. And then people just bring things up constantly. But again, I am who I am, and I'm not going to change that.
How do you reckon male sports people have found the sudden rise of the Matildas? You know, everybody's talking about Mary Fowler, Steph Catley. They're talking about Hayley Rasso. They're talking about Sam Kerr.
I think it's awesome because, like, you even saw, like, the Boomers with all their jerseys on and, you know, changing the time of their game just so they could watch the girls. I'm like, that's something special because I know that all the male counterparts have always wanted women to be in the headlight as well. Like they wanted to fill stadiums. Who would ever play sport and not want to play in front of people? That's the whole purpose of doing what we do. So I think they're all on board. They love it. Like being able to see, you know, there was film of like the Panthers and everyone just like cheering and screaming about the penalty shootout. I'm like, that's what Australians are about. We are one of the best, you know, countries in the world. We're loving, we support each other. Everyone pretty much barracks for every single code within the game. So to have that support from the males it's awesome because it's always been there. It just hasn't been out into the public.
Great for young women too, because there used to be that saying, didn't there, you can't be what you can't see. Suddenly they're able to see it. And you would imagine that it's not just good for young women wanting to be footballers, soccer players, but right across the board, women feel empowered to, okay, this is what I want to do in life.
It's awesome. Like I love being able to, you know, turn on the TV now and you see the NRLW on. And I'm just like, thank goodness. I was like, God, if that was on when I was 18, I would have played that sport for sure because I grew up playing touch football as well and I loved the NRL. Like that was my sport that I watched. And now for me to be able to see those girls going out there hitting really hard and like, you know, loving what they're doing, it inspires me to play. I'm a little bit too old now. I think it would hurt my body a bit much. But, you know, if that's inspiring me, then of course it's going to be inspiring, you know, people younger than me to go out and, you know, go play that sport. So to see more women on TV and in the media, it's only the best thing that can happen for us.
As a final question, how do we keep this momentum going? Because you know, people are talking about putting more money into facilities, more money for women playing sport. How do you keep it going? Because there will be a time when people say, oh, yeah, the Matildas, they played well. It was great to watch them in the World Cup, but we've moved on. How do you keep it going and capitalise on it, do you think?
It's a very hard one. What I'm trying to even push here in Canberra is, you know, come out to the games, come out to McKellar Park, come support us. Just buy a membership, be a part of it if you can. We will entertain you. It's always a fun day out at McKellar to watch, you know, Canberra United play. So I'm like, that's the way that I'm looking at it, just trying to bring people out, especially because COVID is gone now. You know, we're allowed out. We might as well enjoy it. It's a summer sport. So we're like, you might as well come out, enjoy the nice sunshine. There's, you know, there's beers, there's everything. Like there's a lot of people having fun, but no one knows about it. And again, this, like I said from the beginning, comes back down to that marketing. And if no one knows that we're playing, then that's the sad thing. So it's trying right now while the iron's hot is to get as much information about every single code within Canberra, within your state to, you know, jump on board and to push it. I was having a talk with cricket the other day and even they're thinking of the same thing. They're like, okay, well, because football is doing so well right now, like how are we going to allow cricket to do just as well? Like, and they're like, well, we need to make sure people know that we're playing and where we're playing and these days and things like that. Like if you walk down the street, there's not a lot of advertisement for any female sports within Canberra. But we do have, you know, 6 professional teams and there's nothing about us right now. So I'm like, we need to start pushing that and seeing more of us in the papers and on social media. And I think that's the only way that we can continue to make it, you know, hot for as long as possible.
And get the corporates on board because they realise that you're very good role models.
100%. I'm like, yeah, just sponsor us. Please.
That'd be great. Michelle, thanks very much for joining On Side. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
It's been the best. Thank you.
You've been listening to Onside, the official podcast of Sport Integrity Australia. Send in your podcast questions or suggestions to media@sportintegrity.gov.au. For more information on Sport Integrity Australia, please visit our website www.sportintegrity.gov.au or check out our Clean Sport app.